morning, and thank you for tuning in once again to Daily Bible Canada. I sincerely hope today will bless you in some way or another, and I feel that it will because God has connected with me, and I feel like He's thanking me for what I'm doing, for bringing the fullness of the gospel. And you may not realize it yet, but God is blessing you in some way, somehow. Maybe it's as little as somebody holding the door for you. That is a blessing. God has given somebody else that gift. For maybe their gift is to hold doors. Maybe their gift is to take your order to drive through and be friendly with you. And that's what God has blessed us with. And we learned that in our last session, which was our Sabbath session, which was yesterday. Our Sabbath session. And I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed Joanne's talk. It was an amazing talk. Folks, let's get started with today's topic, which is love. That's it. Simple, easy, love. A very short chapter today. And that's why we're going to keep it nice and simple. Today is going to be a kind of rest day. Kind of more to take in what we learned yesterday and continue our spirit of kind of getting all that information in, kind of being like a vacuum, taking that information in. You know, it takes you 2 or 3 times to go over it before you get all of it. So I want you to go back and go 2 or 3 times over it and listen to it once again, so you get the fullness of the gospel that you deserve, that God has blessed you with. So starting in chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, Verse 1 says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal." What's Paul opening up today's session with telling us? He's starting off that he's showing us the most excellent way. If he speaks in tongues of men and of angels, but he has no love, he's only a resounding gong or a cymbal making noise. Verse 2 then tells us, "And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing." Then in verse 3 he goes on to tell us, "And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing." Charity, or as we call it, love, is absolutely necessary. If the church is, it's necessary if the church is going to function as God intends. People can use their spirit-given gifts. They can speak in angelic tongues, understand deep mysteries, give all their possessions to the poor, and even sacrifice their very bodies. But actions performed without love count for nothing. Verse 4 then goes on to tell us, "Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up." What's he saying here? Well, here he's trying to tell us that love is patient. This is a very popular verse that I'm sure you've heard in many places. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. Verse 5, he continues on to basically say it's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Verse 6, "Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth." Verse 7, "It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres." That's a very, very popular little couple verses there that you will see everywhere. You may have that even hanging on a wall in your house, on a canvas. That very popular verse. The word love is tossed around in literature, music, and advertising. Surely it was much the same in ancient Corinth, especially with its rampant promiscuity. But Paul provides a description of charity that has nothing to do with hearts and flowers. True Christian charity is action in response to the conviction of one's heart and mind. Now if we go on to read verse 8, it says, "Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away." Verse 9, "For we know in part, and we prophesy in part." What's he talking about here? Well, now he's going on to say that A little bit he's saying that love's never going to fail. But when there are prophecies, they're going to end. When there are tongues, they'll be stilled. Where there's going to be knowledge, it's going to pass away. And then in verse 9 he went on to say, because we know in part and we prophesy in part. Verse 10 he goes on to say, it may be, wrong chapter, Verse 10, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. What's he saying here? Well, now he's going on to say a little bit that, he's telling us that when perfection is going to come, the imperfect is going to disappear. Verse 11, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. He's saying when he was younger, he always spoke like he was a child. He understood like a child. He thought like a child. But when he grew up, he put away those childish things. Verse 12, for now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And in verse 13, he finishes up our session with saying, and now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three. But the greatest of these is charity. Most likely, arguments about spiritual gifts centered on those that were most apparent, speaking in tongues, prophecy, healing, and everything else. It would have been quite clear who had those gifts in contrast to the gifts of faith, helping others, or administration. So Paul clarifies that just because a gift is from God and is used for the good of the church doesn't mean it is permanent. The time will come when these gifts are no longer needed. Prophecies will cease, tongues will be stilled, knowledge will pass away. Only three will always remain. What are those three? Well, he tells us. Faith, charity, and hope. And charity is the strongest out of the three. So now if we jump back to verse 12 here for a minute, just to finish off today. Verse 12 says, for now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Paul compares a believer's image of God, what he or she might see in a mirror of the time. The reflection is helpful, but far from satisfying. It only makes the person wish for a clearer view. It only makes the person wish for a clearer view. Well, folks, that ends today's session about love. And tomorrow we'll be talking about gifts of prophecy and tongues, moving through our gifts section here. We've been talking a lot about gifts lately. Verse 13 is about gifts. Now we're moving on to verse 14 about gifts. We also talk about orderly worship in verse 14. Then we go on to talk in verse 15 about resurrection. We're going to talk about the resurrection of Christ, the resurrection of the dead, the resurrection body. Then we'll finish off 1 Corinthians by talking about the collection for God's people. Now that'll be very short because Paul always ends his books with personal requests and final greetings. So that ends today's session. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, love. And like I said, tomorrow we'll be talking about gifts of prophecy and tongues. And that will be a great session. So folks, thank you for tuning in today to Daily Bible Canada. This is Brandon saying God bless and goodbye.